up, everybody, and welcome into the H&M Trucking Podcast, episode 27, and guess what? It's September. You know what that means? Driver Appreciation Month. Today's episode is a driver-only episode. We've only done a few of these in our time here with the H&M Trucking Podcast, and they are always some of my favorites. Now, not to say anything against you guys back at the office, James, Eve, Dean, we love you guys. We have you on here all the time. But during Driver Appreciation Month, I want to hear from the guys that are out on the road rolling, and we have a great slate of them for you this week. We have the driver, the one driver that leads H&M in miles under his belt. You heard? Yeah, that's a big deal, and it's a lot of miles. I'm not going to spoil it for you right now, but we will hear from him coming up very soon. We also have four first-time interviews on here this week. So I'm not even going to spoil it for you. We've got so much to get to. The driver interviews are long, so obviously we're already short on time. Like, subscribe, and share the podcast. I'm finding out that there's a lot more drivers out there driving an H&M truck that don't even know we have a podcast. I don't know who I have to talk to about that, but I'm going to find them, and they're going to get an earful. Let's face it, not really. I'm kind of a teddy bear when it comes to that type of stuff. I'm not going to tear anybody up one side and down the other, but I want you drivers to listen. It's a driver appreciation episode, so there's no better time than right now. Let's get to the first interview.
From Omaha, Nebraska, to whatever lane you're driving, this is the H&M Trucking Podcast with your host, Marcus Bridges.
Joining me now in this very special drivers-only episode of the H&M Trucking Podcast is the man, the myth, the legend. Over 3 million miles, the most currently in the entire company at H&M Trucking. Please welcome to the show, Mark Shelton. Mark, thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thanks for having me.
3 million miles, Mark? That is an unbelievable achievement.
Yeah. It's a long ways, isn't
it? How long have you been driving?
I started in 1989.
Okay, and have you been with H&M for a long time, or have you gone through a bunch of different companies in your career?
No, actually, I was working for a farmer, and he had a couple of trucks, and I started driving one of his, and then I bought my own, and then I went to work for H&M in January of 93.
Wow. So you've been there for a long time.
Yeah, it'll be 31 years come January.
That's awesome. And what's kept you at H&M this entire time, Mark? Because with 3 million miles under your belt and all that experience, I reckon you could work for just about any trucking company you want to at this point.
Yeah, I don't know. I always just figured they couldn't figure out how to get rid of me. They didn't know what to do with me.
They're thinking that about me too every day. I know they're got to be coming up with a reason at this point.
Yeah, no, I just H&M was just, they were always good. They always had good down home people that worked there. I've never had any issues with anybody that ever worked there. Of course, the money is good. I like the freight lanes that we run. I pull a hopper. I work in the hopper division, and I like dealing with all the people that we deal with, on a regular basis. So it's pretty nice, I guess.
Sure. You driving around, you pull around one of those nice new Prestige hopper trailers by any chance?
Actually, I have my own hopper.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have my own Tempty trailer that I pull.
Very cool. So I like to ask everybody this, Mark, just to get to know a little bit more about you, and so that the other drivers listening can, put a face to the name or the voice. What's your truck number? Where are you at and where are you headed right now? And also, if you have one, throw in your CB handle for me.
My truck number is truck number 10, and I'm in eastern Iowa, headed to Wisconsin today. And my dad, back in the 70s, when the CB craze started, my dad gave me the moniker of tumbleweed because I would never sit still.
And it's stuck with you all these years, huh?
Yeah, it has.
Very cool. Well, I love that. I love it when a CB handle comes from a trait that the person has. And your fellow driver, Chris Toogood, actually gave me my CB handle.
He did?
Yeah, he gave me the CB handle of Yapper because I never shut up. So kind of similar there,
yeah.
but
that's a good one.
I thought so. I mean, look at what I do for a living. I better not shut up, otherwise this podcast sucks.
I hear you.
So, Mark, if you had one thing over these 31 years that you've learned driving for H&M, just driving in general, and it's something that's helped you get to the 3 million mile mark or past the 3 million mile mark, any kind of advice that you could offer any of your other fellow drivers out there based on your years of experience?
Oh, the hopper side, especially. I guess I've never pulled anything but a hopper and a livestock trailer. But if you want to be in this business, you can't be afraid to work. That's for sure. Find a good company like I did. I was lucky, I think, when I found H&M. Never left. Just try to be professional. And I always try to tell Mike. I give Mike down there at the office a hard time that every time I unload, I go, well, another load delivered on time with professionalism and courtesy from H&M Trucking. And I've always kind of had that, and I think H&M is I think we're a very professional bunch of guys out here, and I think a lot of shippers and receivers respect us, and that makes me proud to be with H&M.
Well, I think it's a big part of it. The one thing that gets overlooked all the time is that relationship between the customer and the shipper. And we've heard it from the horse's mouth from President James Fonda and Vice President Dale Cook and everybody in between them and the lowest rung in the company, that the relationship that you guys build out there with the customers is very important, and especially in a freight market like the one we're living in today. It might be kind of tongue-in-cheek when you say another load delivered with professionalism, but at the end of the day, it's true. You're doing such a good job out there. These people are staying with H&M because why not? It's a good company. They get it here on time. It's professional, and maybe we even get to share a laugh with Mark Shelton once in a while.
Well, yeah. I mean, maybe you get to meet the legend over here. You never know. But, I of course, I've been here so long now. There's a lot of customers and stuff, I know by their first name, and they'll always come out and say, we got other outfits that come in here, but we like H&M the best. Their trucks are clean. Their guys are nice. Their equipment's in good shape, and we never have to worry about them being on time, of course, unless there's an act of God or something. Mm-hmm. So, and that's good to hear.
It is. It makes you feel like the logo on the side of your truck carries a little bit of weight, and I think we'd all be proud to look at the company that we work for, regardless of your occupation. Look at that company logo and be proud of it. And it sounds like you get to be that every single day, and it's always been amazing to me since I started doing this podcast going back to September of last year. I've talked to so many H&M drivers at this point, and one thing that I don't notice, that I do notice when I talk to a lot of other drivers from other companies, is the H&M drivers don't have that kind of boiling anger that sits right under their skin. I shouldn't paint with a wide brush. Maybe some of them do, but the frustrations that happen from not working for a good company and you carry with you while you're out there on the road, and then those get disseminated down into the customer and the relationship there, I just don't see any of that happening, or as much of that happening as I've heard of from other companies. So it's a big deal, and it's obviously part of the company culture that H&M wants to instill.
Sure. And I think there's been, I've known a few bad apples, shall we call it.
Haven't we all?
But they don't last very long. And I don't know if H&M goes, well, we can't deal with this. We're going to weed these guys out or what, but they don't seem to, you're going to have to be patient in this business. There's a lot of times we'll go to a shipper receiver and they'll say, well, it's going to be 3 or 4 hours, and you got to kind of roll with that. Otherwise you're just going to go crazy.
Yeah. And, it's part of that, I think, is not not letting the anger consume you when it's something that you can't control. You know, you mentioned act of God earlier. You mentioned wait times at the receiver. You can get as mad as you want and yell at that steering wheel until your voice goes hoarse. It ain't changing anything about it. Isn't that right?
Well, yeah, it's not going to change anything. And I mean, you know, calling into the office and raising hell in there is not going to do any good either. You know, it's out of their control. It's out of your control. Why not just, you know, watch a movie?
Yeah, exactly. Watch something that'll make you laugh a little bit and just try to forget about it, you know?
Well, yeah, just put on Smokey and the Bandit and relax a little bit, you know?
Right. Don't watch Roadhouse because we don't want you getting angry. Smokey and the Bandit.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. Yep. Absolutely.
So after all these years, Mark, 31 years, as we said, with H&M, over 3 million miles, is there anything that you would change about the company that you work for right now? And please don't worry, I'm not trying to catch you out here. We want to use this podcast as a way to affect positive change. And so if there's ever something that I feel like maybe the brass needs to hear about that I hear from a driver, I'll ask him right to his face on this podcast. So I don't want you to be worried about that, but you do have more experience than 98% of the people I talk to. So it's an important question to ask you.
Yeah, no, you know, don't be worried about asking me anything. Them guys in the office know I'm not, you know, one not to mix words,
okay.
But not that I can really think of, to be honest with you. H&M, I was, when I started, H&M Trucking consisted of 6 office people and 36 trucks. And honestly, I was a little worried when they started doing dry vans and they started expanding and stuff. But still, to this day, when I call in, they go, "Hey, Mark, how's it going? What's going on?" You know, everybody, you know, they're all really good, decent, down-home people. And I've never really had any major issues, and I can't really think of anything that I would really change. Now, that might, you know, tomorrow might be completely different.
Right. It's all subject to change at any given time, but, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll call you back if I'm mad at him tomorrow.
All right. Well, you got my number, so I'll expect it.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's cool. It's also cool to hear you talk your way through that answer and really kind of think about it because, you know, a lot of times when you put that question out to somebody, they just go, "Nope, wouldn't change anything," or "Yeah, I'm pissed about X, Y, and Z." It sounds to me like you tried to come up with something and there's just nothing there for you to come up with. And that's good too. That's the way that a company like H&M keeps a driver like yourself for 31 years, Mark.
Well, yeah, you know, I've been here 31 years. Chad Jorgensen's been here, 25 years, I think now. You know, there's a lot of guys that have been here 10, 15, and a lot of other trucking companies, they can't say that.
Yep.
You know, they have guys for 6 months and then they're gone.
And there's a lot of trucking companies in that time that have come and gone simply because they couldn't hold on to drivers. They didn't do the right things, and now they are not in business anymore because of it.
Yeah. And they, you know, honestly, them guys in the office and gals and everybody in the office, they know what makes H&M H&M. And sometimes I have to remind them that it's me, but you know, they know where what's coming from. So I think they have a tendency to take care of us, you know, probably better than other outfits do.
For sure. Well, I want to touch on something. You know, you were talking about your fellow drivers out there. Do you keep up with your fellow drivers that work in H&M? Are you chatting with them on the CB, or do you guys have long phone conversations when you're rolling? How is the relationships that you've built within the company, you know, independent of those in the office at this point?
Oh yeah, I talk to guys every day or probably every other day on the phone. And if you see them on the interstate, of course you holler at them on the radio. You know, I still talk to guys that have retired from H&M. Call them at home, what's happening. You know, there's a lot of those guys yet, but yeah, I got a lot of good friends over here that I talk to all the time.
That's cool. That's got to be a good way to kind of fend off the loneliness while you're out there on the road working a long shift. Another thing that I hear from a lot of drivers, both tenured drivers like yourself and drivers that are just starting out, it seems that the drivers that have a lot of experience in H&M like yourself are ready, willing, and able to offer any type of assistance that they can to the younger drivers. Have you had any younger drivers reach out and look for some mentoring or anything like that over the course of your career?
Yeah, I've had a few, and that goes back to when I started here, and I was wet behind the ears. There was a lot of guys that had been here from the conception, which I think was in '87, that did the same thing for me. So I kind of remember them old guys and go, well, yeah, if somebody needs directions or what's the right way to go into the plant? Don't go around the block this way, go around the block that way, otherwise you're not lined up for the pit and stuff like that. We do a lot of stuff like that. But yeah, it was, people ask me that aren't at H&M, what's it like over there? Can I make money? Can I do this? And it's, that depends on you. Mm-hmm. If you want to come over to H&M and you're willing to work, you can make a good living. You can have a career here. But if you want to come over here and go, well, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to do this. I got to be home every day at 4:00. Well, then, you go somewhere else. H&M, they're going to work with you. The guys here are going to work with you. The older guys are going to help you out as much as they can. And if you want to come to a place that will treat you good and take care of you, if you're willing to work, then this is the place to go.
Sure. And that never comes free. I mean, every company that's going to treat you well and you're going to like and want to stay there is going to look for you to give back on your part of the bargain, which is coming in, working hard, being honest, being professional, all those things that go into it.
Absolutely.
Now, Mark, I'm running up against the clock here, but I've been doing this lately for drivers, and it seemed to go really well, so I want to give you the floor right now. If there's anything you would like to say to any of your fellow drivers that might be listening, or family members that you have, or you want to give a shout-out to anyone at the office, say anything you want. The floor is yours, my friend.
I just want everybody to be careful and just be good and be careful, and I can't think of what to say.
Good luck getting to 3 million miles yourselves. I think that might be one part that you left out.
Oh, yeah. Try to catch me on that board up there. I'm gonna try to get to 5 before I retire.
Well, Mark, hats off to you for your accomplishments thus far, and good luck on a successful future and hitting to 5 million miles before you hang it up. We really appreciate your time here coming on to share some of your knowledge and insight with us. And we're going to keep your number and definitely have you back on the podcast sometime in the future. All right?
Sure. That'd be great. It was fun.
All right, Mark. You stay safe out there. Keep the shiny side up. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks.
Next up here on our drivers only episode of the H&M Trucking podcast for Driver Appreciation Month is Keith Gros, H&M Driver. Keith, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, no problem. So I ask everybody this right off the top. Where are you at and where are you headed today?
Well, currently I'm in South Dakota heading up to Grand Forks.
Okay. Nice weather.
Dakota.
Nice weather up there today?
Beautiful but hot.
Yeah, it's that time of year. Well, at least it's not on fire like we are over here on the West Coast. That's one thing we can tip our caps to Mother Nature for not burning down the great states of North and South Dakota.
Right.
So, what's your truck number, and do you have a CB handle?
My truck number is 2488, and I really don't do CBs, honestly.
Yeah. Do you have one in the truck and just not really use it that much, or is it something that you haven't even had installed?
Something I haven't even had installed.
Cell phones kind of make them a little bit obsolete, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
How do you deal with occasional loneliness out there on the road? Do you have some other drivers or some friends or family that you're talking to constantly or anything like that?
Well, I actually brought my husband out over the road with me. He stays on the truck with me 24/7.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so cool. Every time I hear about a couple driving together like that, whether or not both of them drive or just one of them do. I'm always happy to hear about it because me personally, of course, I don't have any driving experience, so get that out there first. But that's always the thing that I would be the most concerned about is, well, when am I going to get to see my wife? When am I going to get to pet the dogs? And H&M has a way for you guys to do that. You can take the dog, you can take the spouse along with you. That's really cool.
Yep.
And how long has he been on the road with you, Keith?
On and off since early 2021.
Okay. And does he enjoy the time out there? Does he have any hobbies that he pursues while out on the road or anything like that?
Not really. He just sits, keeps me company, scrolls through Facebook, maybe watches some TV.
Well, that's nice to have somebody out there to keep you company, man. I love to hear that. How long have you been driving? And then after that, how long have you been driving for H&M?
Well, let's see. I got my CDL and started driving in 2015. So almost 9 years. It'll be 9 years in May.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been with H&M. I started with them in June of 2022. I left in October, but I came back in April of this year.
Okay. Well, welcome back. I'm glad to have you back. What was there something that made you decide to leave, or was there a better opportunity out there for you?
Well, we had decided that we were going to move to a new city with some friends of ours, and I'm not the type of person that I'm going to be like, well, we moved to a new city, I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Right.
So I went local, and it didn't pan out.
Do you like being over the road more than local?
It depends, honestly. I like being home in my bed every night next to my husband, but having my husband with me, I could do either, honestly.
Sure. What's some of the things that you like about H&M and the situation that you've got yourself in now?
Best thing about H&M is I don't feel like a number. I feel like a part of a family. Like I can call my dispatcher at any point and be like, hey, I need this. And within a week max, I've got it. In the situation, I've always felt like I never belonged at any of my other companies. And I feel like I belong here.
That's awesome. It's something that when you only hear it from one or two people, maybe it's something that's, oh, well, that guy's got a really good situation or that person feels good about what's going on. But you're echoing a sentiment right now that I hear from almost every driver that I talk to from H&M. And it's a very similar thing that I hear. And that is, I don't feel like a number. I feel like a part of a family. I know that James Fonda has worked very hard for that culture to kind of take over the company. Is it similar to any other company that you've ever worked for, or is this something that's pretty unique to H&M?
I've only worked for about 4 or 5 different companies, and the only one that has come anywhere close to the family atmosphere of H&M is bar none. But that's because they were both very small, family-oriented companies. Like they wanted you to spend as much time with your family as possible. These big corporations that have thousands of trucks, they're all about keep going, make us money. You'll see your family whenever you can. The smallness of the company, it's just the atmosphere.
Sure.
Nothing. I mean, bar none was great, but it doesn't even come close to H&M.
That's awesome. Well, I'm super glad to hear that. I've always wondered, Keith, how companies can ask so much from their employees, especially, trucking companies that ask so much from their drivers and expect such a high level of completion. And in the meantime, when it comes time for the company to give back a little bit, there's no reciprocation. It doesn't seem to me like you can ask so much of an employee without giving them that family atmosphere, that we've got your back, that we'll do anything for you mentality. It just doesn't make sense. And what does make sense about it is the hard time that some of these companies, the big corporate ones that you're talking about, they have a really hard time hanging on to employees. There's a lot of turnover. It's probably a big reason for that, I would assume.
Oh, yes, definitely. I spent 4 years with Covenant Transport, and I had my opportunity to go back, and I'm like, no. I want someone that will make me feel like I'm more than just a revenue source for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found H&M and never looked back.
That's awesome. Well, it's I hope I speak for the company, and I know I do because you were one of the people that was suggested to me for this episode in particular. We're glad to have you, and happy that you're happy out there on the road, Keith. Your dispatcher or your driver manager suggested you for this podcast. It is, as I said at the top of the interview, it's a driver-only episode. We're not talking to anybody from the office. We're focused on the drivers for this one, and for good reason. You guys deserve the recognition way more than I can give you with this podcast. But is there anything that you would like to say to your dispatcher or your driver manager or anything like that while we have the second?
She's the best. Couldn't ask for anyone better. She's a sweetheart, and I love her, and I couldn't ask for anyone better.
And who is your dispatcher? Stacy. Well, shout out to Stacy. It might be a driver-only episode, but we're not beyond giving shout-outs to the office staff for sure. You guys develop some really close relationships with your dispatcher. Is that something that you think is necessary to have success out there on the road?
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, without a good relationship with your dispatcher, you're not going to be successful at this career, because to me, a good relationship with the person that dictates your loads and your miles will make you successful. Not saying that that's the only reason why I have a good relationship with her, but just be nice to them. Do what they ask, and they will do whatever they can for you. It's you scratch my back, I scratch yours kind of situation.
Sure.
So just be nice to your dispatchers. All I can say is if you're nice to them, you will see more than you ever thought you would see from them.
And it makes sense. I mean, one arm of the clock doesn't really move without the other one. And
exactly.
If you have some type of contention in that relationship, man, I can imagine it would not make anybody's life easier. Your dispatcher's not going to be happy when they see your phone number coming up. You're not going to be happy when you have to call them. It's a good relationship to build. I would think maybe second only to the relationship that you build with your very own truck. I mean, it seems so important to me.
Oh, yes, definitely. Definitely.
You know what? Speaking of your truck, something that I didn't ask, what color is your truck? The H&M fleet, always referred to as the Rainbow Fleet, at least on this podcast. So I got to know what you're driving. It's
actually an emerald green Volvo.
Oh, and that color is so pretty. I got to see one of those when I was out in Omaha at the H&M shop. Just beautiful, especially when it's freshly cleaned. It kind of glistens in the sun.
Oh, yeah. I just moved into it this weekend. It was dusty. I'm like, nope, I got to see what it looks like without all the dust. And I just went and washed it.
So you're in a brand new truck now. Well, not brand new, but brand new to you.
Actually, no, it's brand new. It only has 422 miles on it.
Wow. Is that the first brand new one you've had in your career?
No, it's not actually. I actually leased my own truck before, and it was brand new, straight off the showroom. And I had another one with one of my other companies.
And what's the feeling like when you jump into a brand new truck? Can you compare that to anything else that you felt in your life?
Second only to buying a house.
That's cool. I mean, I just they're so the whole concept of the new truck, all the work that goes in to get it ready for the road, all of the add-ons and the shops in there, the guys in the shop are in there getting everything ready for you. It literally is like the birth of a whole new friendship, I feel like. And like I said, I was fortunate enough to sit in a brand new one. The plastic wasn't even off the seats yet, so. I mean, it gave me that whole new car feel, I think I've only purchased one or two new cars in my entire life, and that's a special feeling, and you're going to spend a lot more time in that than most people would in just a new Prius or something like that.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
What are some of the most important kind of creature comforts that you bring along, other than your husband, obviously, on the road with you?
We both like pillows, so of course we have a bunch of pillows and our TV and our Wi-Fi. That way when we're shut down at night, we can just relax from the day, kind of forget that we're in the truck for a while because, unfortunately, we don't have an actual home to go to. We live in the truck. So, yeah, just forget that we're like in a truck and this is where we live and We just make it our home and make it our own.
That's very cool. And, those things are important. That mental clarity that comes from just being able to take that deep breath and know that the workday is over. I'm sure sometimes it's a little complicated when you're living in the truck, but having some things that make it feel like home, super important, I imagine.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Now, do you guys do a lot of cooking in the cab of the truck? It's something that we've had a few people come on and talk about. They're making full meals. We had one lady that cooked an entire Thanksgiving dinner in the cab of her truck while she was rolling. Is that something you get into much, or do you guys like to go visit restaurants and go out to eat?
It's kind of a 50-50 thing. Right now, we're still working on getting everything situated to where we can actually cook, but we have microwavable stuff that we make full meals out of. And if we don't feel like cooking, we'll just hop into a restaurant.
Yeah, I guess it's one of the perks of the job is like sooner or later, especially if you're driving a similar route or you're going through places that you've been before, you probably start to find all those really good restaurants that you want to frequent, don't you?
Yes, you do.
Do you have a favorite one that sticks out?
Oh, actually, yes. It's a little diner off of Exit 7 on I-84 in Utah. I can't remember the name of it, but it has some of the best just home cooking that we've found on the road. Okay.
You mentioned I-84. You had me excited. I thought you were going to mention maybe something up here in the great state of Oregon where I'm from, but I forget that I-84 kind of turns and heads on down through Utah and everything. I've never been quite that far. I think maybe Salt Lake City might be as far as I've gone on 84, but pretty scenic route that goes through there. Up here through the Columbia River Gorge. I'm imagining it's just beautiful down there in Utah.
Oh, it's that whole interstate is just gorgeous. I've traveled it I don't know how many times throughout my career. Unfortunately, I've only been up there once with H&M, but I love it. It's so beautiful.
It is. And I love to hear a driver that's seen all of the interstates talk about one that goes through my home state, because that's between me and where I grew up. I have to drive for Interstate 84 for about 4 hours to get home and see my parents and, the rest of the family and everything. And I never knew until I started doing this job, talking to a lot of drivers that see all of the places, how special that interstate really is and how beautiful it is compared to some of the ones that you get on. I mean, nothing against the Midwest out there, but when I went to the Midwest for the first time, I was a little worried that I could spin 360 degrees and not see a mountain somewhere. So, I enjoy looking at the scenery and the landmarks and everything.
We see, growing up in South Louisiana, you don't really see any kind of topography other than marsh or swamp.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that's not just a flat surface is beautiful to us.
I hear you. That's awesome. Well, Keith, we're running up against the clock here. Real quick, I want to give you the opportunity to say anything to anyone that you'd like to, whether it be family, friends that might be listening, fellow drivers, anybody back at the office. The floor is yours.
All I want to say is y'all have fun. Life is short. Make the best out of it and just be safe while doing it. That goes to everyone.
That's some great advice, Keith. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you sharing your stories and your knowledge and insight. And we will keep your number and get you back on this podcast again at some time in the future, my friend.
I'll look forward to it.
All right. You stay safe out there, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Keith.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
We're halfway through our amazing slate of 4 driver interviews for this driver appreciation episode of the H&M Trucking Podcast. It is Driver Appreciation Month, and Pilot is going to be taking care of you H&M drivers. This email came from the account manager at Pilot directly to Dale Cook, letting him know some of the things you can get your hands on this month. In September, drivers will be receiving extra reward points, free drinks, sweepstake opportunities, free snacks for military vets, 50% off the deli options, and also select buy one, get one deals. Pilot Travel Centers taking care of you drivers out here during Driver Appreciation Month, and it's a damn good thing. They should be. So make sure, roll into a Pilot for your 34, or maybe you're just there for a quick sleep. check it out because stuff is cheaper. Stuff is going to be even free. Who doesn't say yes to a free drink? It doesn't matter if you give me unsweet iced tea. If it's free, I'm going to put it in my head. Don't forget, Pilot Travel Centers, that is where your deals are coming from for Driver Appreciation Month. Hats off to all of our H&M drivers. You guys do a great job. Let's get to a couple more of these interviews. Joining us now on this very special driver appreciation episode of the H&M Trucking Podcast is driver Brandon Lovely from H&M Trucking. Brandon, glad to have you here. Thanks so much for the time.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited about doing this.
Where are you at and where are you headed today?
I'm currently just crossed over into Illinois, going over there at Rock Quarry, and I'm headed up to North Dakota.
Okay, awesome. And you don't have to go through Chicago and fight that mess, do you?
Unfortunately, I do.
Well, good luck to you, man. Godspeed. I know that's one of the places that the drivers that I talk to tend to mention it as a place that they don't enjoy driving as much. I typically hear Atlanta and anywhere in California above Chicago, but Chicago's not far behind. What are your thoughts? What are your least favorite places to have to drive through in the country?
Well, my least favorite would be Atlanta, of course. California, thankfully I own the truck, so I don't have to go there.
Nice.
Chicago, I grew up in the Chicagoland area, so I'm kind of used to traffic out here, and I can drive like them.
Okay, good. So it's in your blood is what you're saying.
Unfortunately.
Now, you said you own the truck. What's your truck number? What's your CB handle? And what color of truck are we out there driving?
I've got a blue 21 Volvo V&L 860. My number is 979. I don't have a CB handle. I've got my CB. I talked on it when needed to get information or give out information, but I don't use a handle.
Okay. No, I like that. I run into quite a few drivers these days that don't have a handle, and what I notice is a lot of them, like yourself, still have the CB in the cab because it is a very useful tool if there's something up ahead that you need to be looking out for.
Yeah, if only other drivers would have one and have them on.
Yeah.
And usually you get into an incident and stack up traffic, and then all of a sudden, hey, what's going on up here? Well, we've been talking about this for the last 10 minutes on the CB. If you had it on, you'd know.
Yeah. Yeah, they're a pretty useful tool. I mean, it's amazing. The technology in cell phones is so much better, but how do you get a line to all the people that are right around you at that point? It's something that a cell phone can't really do, but a CB's got in spades.
Yeah, they don't have an app for that on the cell phone these days, or yet anyways. I'm sure the younger drivers are probably looking for a CB app.
You know, there's some chat rooms and stuff, but I don't see none of it's audio wise. It would all be, something that you would have to type out. It's not as handy. I say, look, for my money, the CB in the cab, best decision that you can make as far as trying to communicate with other drivers. And if you don't have a handle, it's not like you got to end up being like that mud duck in the desert, dude. You don't have to be on there all the time just talking to hear yourself talk.
Well, every once in a while I'll get someone that I'll relay information to, and then they're following me, so we end up talking for a while.
That's cool. Does that kind of help fight the loneliness that creeps up from time to time?
It does. It does get depressing out here, and you're so far away from your family. So having other people on, whether it's on the CB or someone that you can talk with each day, it does help out a lot.
And do you have like a friend out there or a fellow driver, or do you have family that you talk to each day to help keep that at bay?
I usually speak with my wife when she's on her lunch break, and when she gets off work, usually I'm up. I get to speak to her each day. We usually FaceTime. I got a friend of mine that I met through another driver that I grew up with, and him and we usually talk every day, anywhere from 8 to 10 hours a day.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so nice, though, because you can still get the job done. You can still get from point A to point B safely, but it's like you've got someone riding along there with you.
Yeah, there's a lot of times where he will have freight. He's with H&M as well, and he'll have freight. I've got a faster truck, but I'll slow down and keep pace with him, and we'll just cruise the whole way and just talk. I keep pace with him, and we shut down at the same time each day, and So it's fun.
That's awesome. And now let's give him a shout out since he's an H&M driver. What's his name?
His name is Milton Quackenbush.
Milton Quackenbush. We're talking about you, buddy. Get in touch with him. See if he wants to come on the podcast. We'd love to have him on next time you're talking to him.
All right. I'll ask him. He's not much of a people person. He's an older guy, but I'll ask him.
Sometimes those are my favorite. You get some good stories out of those guys.
Oh, yeah. He's been driving since he was young. He started driving a box truck when he was on the farm when he was a kid, and then he got into truck driving before he went to the military, and then came out and went back into truck driving. Wow,
that's a cool story. So how did you get your start in truck driving?
Unfortunately, it was out of necessity. I've always preferred mechanics. I like working on engines and building stuff. And unfortunately, it was a day off, and I had taken my daughter to the movies. I dropped her off so she can go with her boyfriend. And on my way to a friend's shop, somebody playing on their cell phone slammed into me at a red light.
Oh, you got to be kidding. And did it hurt you pretty bad?
I had to have surgery on both shoulders, messed up my back. And doctor told me file disability. It's like, I can't sit on my butt and collect a check. I've got to do something. So I figured I'll drive a truck. Why not?
And are you able to stay out of pain and keep yourself feeling pretty good while doing the work that's required?
Except for when I have to unload.
Yeah.
Then I'm sore.
I'm sure. Now, are you one of those guys that, since you kind of have this mechanic bent to you, are you one of those guys that likes to kind of get out and tinker with your own truck when something goes wrong, or do you leave that
every
for the
time?
Mechanics? You do. That's awesome. I love talking to guys like you because you can't keep you off the road. You can always get yourself back on the road regardless of what happens.
I had the one time, and I should have noticed it since I do the PM on my APU myself, and I didn't. When they installed it, they put a hose clamp on improper, so it wore a hole in the cooling line for the APU. And all of a sudden, I've got extremely low coolant popping up on my dash, emergency shutdown, and I got it pulled off, and I contacted Breakdown and asked them if there were shutoff valves after I found out where it was at. And they told me where those were located. I got the coolant shut off. I have water that I drink on the truck, and I dump half a case of bottled water into my coolant. They're like, oh, we're going to get you into the shop, and they can take care of that. I'm like, shop, what for? And they're like, fix your coolant line. I'm like, nope, I got that. I got shut down, found the hole exactly where it was at, and there was enough extra length hose, so I cut that line, put it back on, and got some coolant, and never went to the shop.
That's awesome. I love start. We're thinking about doing an episode all about guys like you that are out there on the road rolling and keeping themselves rolling. So we'll definitely get you back on that episode because the knowledge that comes along with that, I've heard it from some drivers, especially tenured drivers that have been doing it for a long time, tell me like, man, some of these young guys don't know how to fix anything on their truck, and it costs them a lot of time. It seems like a very useful skill to have out there.
It is. There's times where I'll contact Breakdown because there's an issue with the trailer. Usually our trailers are under warranty, and they don't want the drivers messing with it. But one of our guys in the shop, they know I was a mechanic in the shop before driving a semi. I was out in Maryland. First, they told me it was 4 hours before they can get to me. Then all of a sudden I get called and I'm told it's going to be 16 hours. I'm like, can I just look at the light myself? And he's like, you've got enough wiring experience. I'm comfortable letting you do it. All it was I got that light out of the trailer and reached in there and felt the connection was loose. I pushed it back in, felt it pop and click into place, and that light worked.
Wow. Saved yourself 16 hours of sitting there doing nothing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And unfortunately, because I was waiting, I lost the load that I was supposed to pick up. But I was able to turn around and pick up another load early next morning. But I didn't have to sit for 16 hours. And then who knows how long it would have taken them to actually work on the truck.
Yeah, they might have had the whole thing torn apart by the time they figured out it was just a loose connection. That kind of thing can happen in a shop for sure.
And I've got all my test equipment that I need on the truck, so I diagnose my own electrical issues. And there's a lot of times, like I just had a trailer with a bad light on it. I don't know who damaged the light, but it wasn't the harness for the trailer. It was actually the harness for the light. So I took the light out and snipped the wires, fixed them how they needed to be, got it all back together, sealed up properly, and it was working again. I didn't even bother calling the shop. I didn't mess with the trailer wire harness itself. The light itself had a long harness, and wire somehow got damaged. So I went ahead and just fixed it, didn't even bother reporting it.
That's awesome. And I can tell too, just listening to you talk about it, that you kind of enjoy that part of it, don't you? You like you like taking things apart, putting them back together properly. Yeah.
Oh, that's my favorite thing to do. I've always wanted to do it since I was a kid. And I graduated high school early. I was in computer programming. I was A+ certified in 10th grade, which that was a college course we weren't allowed to take until you were in 11th or 12th. They allowed me to take it in 10th. And majored in accounting, and all them jobs pay excellent money, and the only thing I want to do is turn the wrench.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, that's, you know what? There's something to be said for the life experience that you got out of not only, graduating early, studying a different profession than the one that you ended up in. When the day finally comes and if you can't turn a wrench anymore, then maybe accounting's on your docket for the next, 10 years or something. But for now, man, keep driving, keep turning that wrench. It sounds like you're enjoying it out there.
I actually joke around, and I can honestly say I hate driving a truck.
Really?
Yes. I don't like it. I never wanted to do it, but I've got a family that relies on me, and I'm the main provider, and I'll do anything legal to provide for my family, no matter what it is.
Well, that's a hell of a way to approach it. If you truly don't like what you're doing, but you're out there doing it anyway for the family, I'm sure they appreciate that. And you know what? You get to take something away, because at the end of the day, you do provide for them. So you get that sense of accomplishment, right?
Although I got a friend of mine that says I did it backwards, because I keep telling him how much I do not like driving a truck, but I bought one. He loves driving a truck, has been driving since 2007, and he's like, I will never buy a truck. You did it backwards. I'm like, well, you can't say, no one can say that I didn't go full head on into it.
Yeah, that's exactly right, man. That's exactly right. So you mentioned your wife. How long have you been married, and do you have any kids?
I don't have any of mine biologically. I do have stepkids, but I typically don't refer to them as my stepkids. I always refer to them as my daughters. Mm-hmm. And I do have one daughter. She has special needs. And when she turned 18, she gave me adoption papers. So I adopted her.
That's awesome.
The other two, their dad's still in their lives. But the one calls me dad and talks to me more than she does her biological. And the other one, she calls me by my name and talks to her dad mainly, which is all right. I came into their lives when they were 9, right before they turned 10. And one's in the Navy. The other one, she works at a couple different jobs down in Florida. I met my wife back in 2011. I was on my way to Arizona for a job interview, and unfortunately I was unemployed. And I ran out of gas in Florida back when that nice snowstorm came across the states.
Uh-huh.
And I had driven out to Arizona looking for work, and I drove in that the first time, and then it came back through, and I didn't want to drive through the second time. And I didn't have enough funds in my unemployment check to make it all the way coming straight down from North Carolina to I-10 and cutting over. I ran out of fuel. So I called the job interview I had and told them what my situation was. And they're like, well, if you can't make it, we're going to go with someone else. And then I started talking to my wife online. A couple months later, we finally met in person in April 2011. And we've been together since. Got married back in 2017.
That's such a cool story, man. I love hearing stories like that when it's like you're talking to somebody online and all of a sudden you fast forward a few years and you're married and you've got a great life together. I met my wife online. A lot of people don't know that, even in my own life system, but we met on MySpace, man, and that'll date me a little bit. Everybody will know how old I am when you mention MySpace, but you know what? It's the world that we live in now, and I love that the world gets smaller when you talk about the internet. You can get a hold of anybody that you need to at any time, And I think we're better off because of that.
To an extent, we are, but then you get a bunch of people that they don't really know what they're talking about, and I see that it creates a lot of division amongst people, or people that are insistent they know what they're talking about, and you can show them 1,000 pages where how they're wrong, but they still think they know what they're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, there's an asshole in every bunch, Brandon. There's no question about that.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Usually when I'm trying to be persistent and explain to somebody why they're wrong and give them information, I'm the one that's called the asshole. And I'm like, oh, that's sweet. Thank you.
Yeah, that is one thing that's very true about the interwebs is it's not the most friendly place when you're having an argument with somebody or an altercation in some way, shape, or form. People are very brave when there's a keyboard and a computer screen in front of them. Not so much so out on the real concrete, you know?
No, you get face to face and they're like, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right, you are.
Well, Brandon, we're running out of time here, so I want to do this because I've offered every driver on today's episode this opportunity. The floor is yours. If you would like to say anything to any friends or family that might be listening, any of your fellow drivers or the H&M office staff, please take some time and say what you'll say.
I just want to say thank you to H&M for giving me the opportunity. Michaela, when she contacted me, I had submitted the application and I'd seen them online on Facebook. I said, please don't call me before noon because it's 5-something in the morning and I'm going to sleep now. But she's seen my driving experience and she could not wait till noon to call me. And she was very apologetic, waking me up. And she was so excited. Randy, he actually interrupted the phone call to see why she was excited. So I got to talk to him for a little bit.
Oh, wow.
And he promised that I'd be if not the first person, the second person I'd meet when I came into orientation. And he was the second person. And he's like, so you're the Brandon Michaela was talking to. And I'm like, yeah, I'm him. And everyone's great here at H&M. I like the open door policy. We can joke around with people in the office. And we can call any time. Dale, he's helped me out and we've talked often and he's a great guy and I like talking with him. And everyone at H&M is just great to be around. It's not another trucking company. It's more like a family. You get to know who you're working with and joke around with them. My dispatch, Ruben, he's been my dispatch the whole time I've been here, and we joke around. And my friend Milton, I usually talk to, if I got to call dispatch and bug Ruben, I'll ask him, hey, you got to speak to Ruben? He's like, yeah, I guess I'll bug him too. And there's times you joke around. I'll tell him, I got this old senile guy here on the line that wants to talk to you. And he's like, not that guy. Next time, give him a warning.
Well, that's so cool, man. I love hearing the stories of the relationships that you guys build within H&M. It's a really amazing culture, and to be able to see it, it's like motivating when you see how well you guys all get along and work together. It makes me want to be better at my job and communicate better and be more friendly and everything. It's just it's really cool. And hats off to you drivers, man. You guys are out there beating the pavement and working your asses off, but it does take a village, and without the people at the office, it would probably never go as good as it does. So
we have our ups and downs. Like my last load this weekend, granted, it was a broker's issue and another company's issue, but I felt sorry for our after hours Jim. He had his day cut out for him on this past Saturday. Our Santera system went down, and the broker gave us the wrong pickup number. My pickup number was for a load that was going to Illinois, and I'm trying to go to Shelby, Iowa. And the other guy, he had the pickup number for my load, and he's trying to go to Illinois because he wants to go home. He lives in Chicago. So that was a whole fiasco. And then the load before that, they couldn't unload me for different reasons. And it's like, really? So he had to get me a trailer that was empty and figure out a way to keep me rolling. So he was working his butt off this past weekend, especially Saturday. And I thank him for saying, a positive attitude, even though everyone was frustrating him. I think he said his day started at 6 a.m.
Wow.
I'm like, at least you get to sleep longer than me.
Yeah, well, you're always going to have your issues. It's that's the nature of the beast when you guys are doing what you're doing. But I think it's how you work through those issues. And like you said, keep a positive attitude. Take a deep breath. Everything will work out, and in the end, it'll work out for the best because you got a lot of good people there working around you and yourself out there doing things right, man. And it's, like I said, to be a fly on the wall at this company and get to see how it all gets, how the sausage gets made. I love it, man. And just want to thank you so much for coming on today, sharing some time with us and sharing all your knowledge and insights. We appreciate you drivers endlessly on this podcast and beyond. And we just are so thankful that you were able to come on today.
No, I'm glad I was asked to be on here. Not too many people ask to see the inside of what trucking's like, and it's cool to talk about it and let others know, and kind of tell people what we go through out here on the road. Not enough people know how to drive around a truck, and they think we're big and slow, but at the same time, they think we can stop on a dime, and it's like, what are you thinking?
Yeah, man, that is the biggest gripe I hear is four-wheelers just not given the respect that's deserved. And if we can accomplish one thing with this podcast, I hope that we just educate a few of them because I wouldn't want to be you, man. The stuff that you deal with out there on the road, that's more than I could handle. So thank you for being the guy, and thank you for doing such a great job.
You're welcome. I'm out here 6 to 12 weeks at a time.
Well, we're going to keep your number and have you on again sometime, all right?
Oh, that'd be awesome.
All right, Brandon.
We didn't get a chance to talk too long the other day. I didn't know H&M had a podcast going on. I was curious as to what the name of it was, and my wife's interested in listening to it, too.
That's easy enough, and I am going to keep this in just because I want everybody that's listening to hear it. We are, as we say it a lot on here. If you're already listening, you know this, but if it's your first time, we are the H&M Trucking Podcast. You can find us on any podcast platform. That's Spotify, Apple, Google, Stitcher. We're there. You can also Google the H&M Trucking Podcast, and it'll pull up our link tree, which is a nice little landing page that has a link to every single platform that we're on. And you can also find us on YouTube and watch the podcast if you would like there. So I will send you a link to that link tree as soon as we get off the phone here. Tell all your friends, Brandon, because we are trying constantly to get this out to all the drivers, but there are still drivers that don't know it exists, and it's my job to figure out how to get this in their face.
No, I've been here 4 years and didn't even know about it.
All right. Well, you do now, so we got another listener. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, sir. There's times where my buddy, we're on opposite shifts, so I'll listen to Crime Junkies, but I got caught up with their stuff, so I have nothing to listen to. So it'd be cool to pull this up and be able to listen to it when I don't have anyone to talk to.
You're going to be so happy when I tell you that there's 27 episodes of this podcast out right now for you to listen to, and there's another 18 episodes of a different podcast we did called Unplugged OTR that are up there as well on the exact same feed. We got you covered for like almost 40 hours of listening right now, Brandon.
Awesome.
All right, man. Well,
I would definitely check them both out.
Okay. I'll send you the link. You be safe out there. Keep the shiny side up. And once again, thank you for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. You have a great day.
Moving right along here in our driver appreciation episode, our next driver up to bat is H&M driver Zach Beckman. Zach, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, no problem. How can I help you out?
Well, I want to call up and talk to you just to get a little bit of a peek behind the curtain of who you are and what's going on at H&M, and also just tip my cap to you, man. It's Driver Appreciation Month all through September, and it only seemed right that we do a driver-only episode to kick that off here. So you're one of our featured guests, so welcome.
I appreciate it.
been here for almost 5 years, working my way out of Amarillo, Texas today. At least trying to get out of here.
I bet you it's hot down there.
Shockingly, it's a little less than it was yesterday, and it's prime hour for it right now. Truck's saying about 90 versus yesterday. Truck was saying about 106. So a little bit cooler out. Yeah, a little bit.
I guess so, man. I'm actually headed to Vegas in a couple of days to spend a couple of days by the pool and a couple more days at a blackjack table, and it's supposed to be like 105 when I'm there, and I'm equal parts looking forward to it and terrified,
To be fair, it's amazing what they did with Vegas being able to start that place up pretty much in the middle of a desert. So it should be some good fun.
Yeah. We're watching a football game from a rooftop pool, which kind of scares me because what I hear when I hear rooftop pool is no shade.
And a bit closer to the sun, so yeah. might be a little bit warmer up there, just ahead.
So I've been asking everybody this because I want you drivers to be able to know who's out there on the road. What color of truck you driving? What is your truck number, and do you have a CB handle?
So I don't have a CB handle, at least not that I'm aware of. Truck number is 2438, and it's the equivalent of Big Red, basically. The color code on it's Viper Red. It's one of the oddball ordered one, so it's got a few little extra details on it.
Is it how new is this truck?
New enough to where it seems to attract people trying to hit it. And I got it back on the week of the 4th. I believe it was the 2nd and 3rd was when I got moved into it, and ironically enough, the 4th of July was the first load on it.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And it carries one of our nation's colors, Viper Red. That sounds like it's faster than most of the rest of them.
Yeah, I wish. And turn around my old truck, thankfully, had it long enough to where the limiter on it was a little bit worn away due to due to the age of the truck. So I was able to get a little extra out of it versus this one being brand new. It's like, yeah, we're not quite going to let you get away with it as easily just yet. So that's all. It moves, thankfully.
Yeah, thankfully. So tell me, you said it attracts people trying to hit it. I'm sure you've got a story there. What happened?
So the truck being about 2 months old, almost spot on the money, had a load that picked up out of Cordell, however you want to say it, Georgia. And I was parked over at the Loves, and the load didn't have to be over to Lubbock until today, on Tuesday, right after, Labor Day? So I had some time, sat over at the Loves, was parked over next to the spot next to the light post. So the only spot open was the one on the driver's side. Next thing I know, dog needs out at about 2 o'clock in the morning, and thankfully him needing out also meant that we get out of the truck and get greeted to a bright orange Schneider trailer about a foot from my mirror.
Whoa. Obviously,
that was followed up by a very loud horn from a very disgruntled driver at 2 in the morning just to get greeted to the trying to think of the nice way to put this, but the stereotypical flip-flop wearer. And needless to say, the driver was trying to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I got close, I couldn't tell." Meanwhile, I'm sitting under the light right there next to me, and then I have another driver trying to tell me, "Oh, it's fine, he didn't hit your truck." Mind you, I'm sure any other driver does this. I'm sitting as close to the curb as I can in my spot, and there's about a quarter of my spot still open. It's not a shallow setup. It's a very easy spot to back into, and this guy still needed all of his spot that he was backing into and almost all of mine, which I was occupying, and almost hit my truck. Not even 2 months into being the operator of this one. So
got under your skin a little.
Already. A little bit. Never had any other problem. Any other truck I've had, be it new or used, any other truck I've had, never got close to getting hit. And I've only been doing this 7 years. And in the middle of the night, it just so happened the dog needing to go out kept my truck from just getting completely beaten up.
Wow.
And what makes it worse was not only was he close by the time they slammed on the brakes as a reaction to the horn, but on top of that, when I went up there and looked, he was uncranking the turn, meaning that trailer, not only would it hit the mirror, would have just done number on the door and pushed back to roughly that little hump, whatever you want to call it right there, where it goes back to the sleeper. It just, it got under my skin. It's still under my skin.
I can
brand
tell.
new truck and not even 2 months into having it. It just, come on.
What's your dog's name, Zach?
The actual name on the paperwork or every other nickname that he goes by?
What does he go by?
Everything under the sun, pretty much everything except his actual name. But I call it, his actual name on paperwork is Claude. So if you think, basically think of Santa Claus, except replace the S with a D, and there you go. Now, there are other drivers and other individuals that, since he is a German Shepherd and due to some medical shenanigans, how he runs, that will, I'm sure they'll get a laugh out of this. They call him a kangaroo because of how he runs, unfortunately. He's a little more hippity-hoppity on the back end, but, he's always, he's a 9-year-old German Shepherd, and I love him to death. Ever since he was a little 7-week-old puppy.
Crown him Employee of the Month for saving the door on the mirror on your truck right now. I think that might be what's in order, is a little bit of accolades for this dog, because he doesn't wake up with a middle of the night potty run. You might be sitting here talking to me about how your truck's in the shop getting fixed right now.
Oh, God. I would hate that. I'm sure even James would hate to see that instantly right out the gate. Hey, you've been doing great aside from what happened a year and some change ago, but, we let that one go. What happened here was this. I was asleep, or at least I was trying to. About that.
You're trying to sleep and haven't slept since, it sounds like, because you're just so worried about it. And I would be, too. I mean, you get a nice new piece of machinery. It doesn't matter whether it's new right off the showroom floor or whether it's just new to you. You want to keep it nice. You want to protect it from the idiots out there. So you get into a parking spot with plenty of room, and it's still not enough. I mean, I get it. It's frustrating.
Yeah. And on top of that, not only is, the age-old saying of the driver is the face of the company, they're the ones that the customer sees, so on and so forth. Everybody knows that saying. But on top of that, obviously, how you have your truck and how it looks obviously speaks to you as an individual also. Not only does it represent the company if it looks bad on the outside, but it also represents that you as the individual aren't taking good care of the truck. Mm-hmm. So, God forbid, if I would have had the truck get scraped up, dinged, or, which I hated when this happened at Warner when I was over there, but I had a T680 and that typical battery cover piece decided it wanted to fly off, and they ended up replacing it. It was a blue truck. They replaced it with a black cover for it, and it looked spotty in my opinion. It just didn't look right, and I'm trying to keep this one from falling in the same boat. So
for sure. I mean, look, I can relate, man. Nobody likes the two-tone, especially if it's not a two-tone. It's not a racing stripe. It's not a cool addition to the paint. It's just they had a black one, so they put a black one on. I don't know what I'm kind of big on like symmetry, and I'm big on things looking nice, a lot like it sounds like you are. That would drive me nuts, Zach.
Yes. Again, kind of like somebody almost hit me. It could be one of those things that just gets under your skin when especially if it's something outside your control that causes it, and then it just looks bad on you, because then you have to, people wonder what happened, if you were the cause of it or if somebody else was. And for me, I like having a decent reputation. I try to have a good reputation. So, if my stuff looks spotty, then it can come back to, bite me in the rear about it. So
sure.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you bring up the reputation and how you're representing the company and representing yourself out there. How would you say H&M as a company compares in reputation to some of the other companies you've worked for or worked around out there on the road?
So how I view, if I had to sum it up in one word, I would call it entertaining, because there could be moments where yeah, you want to pull your own hair out, or you want to, strangle somebody else because they're the ones being the cause behind your headache and everything. But other times there's plenty of entertainment, be it, going to the office and messing with, I haven't been to the new one, but messing with James, messing with your dispatch, messing with other dispatch, messing with Dale, or just about anybody. Like, that's probably one of the great things about being here is because it's smaller, mind you, you gotta have a thick skin about it, because unlike Facebook where, people get butthurt very easily if you make a bad joke or if you do a little too much trolling, here at H&M, especially when you meet some of these people in person, some of them have such a good poker face about some of their jokes that you will think they're being mean or possibly, not in the mood for your shenanigans, when in reality, be it Jim, be it the girls behind the counter over at the shop, be it the guys on the phone when you're trying to get something done and they're giving you hassle about breaking something, like you have to have a thick skin over here to be able to hang with to be able to hang with the people over here and have a good joke at the ready and be able to do some friendly banter. Now, a great one, for example, a year and some change ago, I got a speeding ticket, instantly went up. I had to go get the truck dialed down because that was part of the policy. I know it's slightly changed a little bit on how long it stays, but I had to go up there, had to get the truck turned down. And no sooner did I get up there, I know if if he listens to this one, he knows I still haven't let go, but he instantly gave me flack about it. Instantly. And I'm one of those people, I'll beat myself up more than somebody else. And the moment he gave me flack about it, he had a big old grin on his face. He had some good nicknames right offhand. Janie and Leslie had some good ones right offhand. And Jim even told me, he's like, you're a good sport about it. I'm just giving you flack. And he told me there was somebody else, same thing, went to go get their truck, turned down because of a speeding ticket, and they didn't take it so well. They weren't great with the jokes. They weren't great with the, banter here and there. And I guess they took it more to heart or took it more as an insult. So over here, you do have to have a bit of a thick skin, especially depending on who you're talking to, because it's not that the humor's dry, but it can be very blunt and to the point to where you think it might possibly be an insult, but it is a joke. You do have to be able to take a joke over here. And personally, I love it. So long as I can prevent it and I keep myself out of trouble, I don't really intend on going anywhere else. I will admit I was curious of the situation of the company going into COVID because, everything slowed down. But, obviously I held my reservation on my opinion on that one. And here we are on the other side of it. All the miles in the world you could ever need. And, aside from the little bit of hiccup with freight, but otherwise, H&M will keep you moving. They'll keep you happy. You do good by them, they'll do good by you. I've had zero issues with them. I've never been home late. If I'm run a little behind schedule, they'll, I just call my dispatch up and be like, hey, trade you this day for that day. Just move it back one. Works flawlessly every time. I've never had a problem with them. So by all means, if I can prevent it, I don't intend on going anywhere else. I really don't.
That's awesome. I love hearing it, man. And we've heard a lot of that today on this episode. The drivers are happy, and H&M is happy with the drivers. It's a real well-oiled machine. I'll put it that way. And I actually can speak a little bit to what you were saying about the banter. I found out the hard way, not quite being ready for it, but I'm the same way. If you got into one of my group text messages with my personal friends, you'd think we hated each other the way we talk to one another, and we all absolutely love it. I ran across, went to lunch actually with Brittany and Eve and a couple of the other gals there, and I'll tell you, Brittany make you feel 2 inches tall walking out of that cafe. If you're not ready to go toe to toe with her, she'll put you in your place and she'll walk out of there with a smile on her face. And she did that to me. Jim, actually, I interviewed Jim last week from the shop for the podcast. And I love the guy, man. First thing he said when I called him, he picked up the phone and said, "Damn, man, I was hoping you were going to lose my number." I get it. And I told him I haven't lost it yet, but give me long enough. I'll lose the son of a bitch. So it's an awesome company. I felt like I had been working there for years, and I don't even work there. I work as kind of like an ancillary arm. So I love the culture behind the company, and you can tell that a lot of people, most of the people I've talked to, if not all of them, really appreciate it as well.
Oh, yeah. And what helps is obviously, the as long as you have a good dispatcher, or at least you get along with your dispatcher, it obviously keeps issues to a minimum. And like I said, it's as long as I can prevent it, I don't see myself going anywhere else. It's been a great company. I can't use the term buddy, but one of my quote unquote acquaintances that I know of, he stayed at Warner about a year longer than I did. I made the hop, and when I came over here, the individual that recruited me, his name was Joe. When I made the hop, I was over here for a year. So when he's listening to this, he can't debate it. I was here for a year longer than he was, and he came over here, got into orientation, all that fun stuff, got his truck. He immediately gave me flack that he got a newer truck than I did. But it's one of those places, he's even said the same thing. He doesn't see himself going anywhere else unless it's potentially local due to his situation. But in the meantime, OTR-wise, they always say the grass is greener somewhere else. I highly doubt it from H&M. And going anywhere else after H&M is going to be a very high bar to meet.
That's awesome. Well, we're so glad to hear it here, Zach, and we're also very glad that your truck is still unblemished. I know you're going to work really hard to keep it that way. I know you're going to take care of it. And, when James, if he listens to this, you can know, James, this guy, I could tell, Zach is serious about this. So don't be worried about it with one of your precious new trucks. It's in good hands out there on the road.
I know he'll definitely give me flack instantly the moment he sees it this winter time. Why is it covered in snow? Well, kind of snowing out, so about that. A little hard to keep it shiny every 2 seconds in the snow. Especially when you guys like sending me to Wyoming during the winter. About that.
Yeah. Last winter in Wyoming was a real shit show, man. Fingers crossed it doesn't get that bad this year, but we all know it will.
Of course. And the fun part's been I think it was last year or the year before, I guess they ran out of salt or whatever and just started, throwing down, sand and dirt and stuff like that in order to make up for it. It's like, that's really doing the job, guys. Thanks.
Yeah.
State's still closed down about 99% of the winter time, but good try.
Right. Thanks for making my forward facing surfaces look like I got shot up with buckshot. That's
exactly.
That's always fun. Well, Zach, we're out of time today, man, but I want to give you a chance real quick. You've already said so many nice things about the other people at the company, but at the end of each one of these interviews today, I have allowed each driver to say anything that they want to say, whether it be to family and friends, fellow drivers, or office staff. The floor is yours, my friend.
Probably the only thing I would have to say office staff-wise is as the company grows, try and get us more dispatchers. Obviously, we don't want to do what happened over at Warner. I know the goal is to try and grow the company, but first things first, make sure, obviously, you want to keep drivers happy, get more dispatchers. That way you don't overburden them. To other drivers, guess my only thing over there could be, we'll see you on Facebook. I enjoy doing a little trolling over there. So there's some people that we get wound up and have fun with over there. As long as we don't get banned. But I got some good memes for that one. So but much past that, I appreciate the company. I'm grateful for everything they pretty much afforded me. I've been able to buy a bunch of shenanigans that I would have not otherwise been able to buy. So especially with that speeding ticket that happened a while ago, I lucked out still being here afterwards. So by all means, I am extremely grateful to this company.
That's great. Well, we're extremely grateful for you taking the time to share with us today. I'm definitely keeping your number. We'll get you back on the podcast sometime in the future. All right, Zach?
Yeah, man, by all means.
All right, man. Be safe out there. We'll talk soon.
All right. Appreciate it. Later.
Man, how spoiled are we today? 4 driver profiles, not a peep from the office to complain about it. Not that they do. I just didn't tell them, and then I didn't call anybody to interview them this week, so they'll figure it out sooner or later, but it's fine. They appreciate you just like we do here on the podcast. We want to give a huge shout out to Mark Shelton, Keith Gros, Brandon Lovely, and Zach Beckman. You guys are awesome. Those interviews were awesome, and we greatly appreciate your time. I want to wish every other driver out there good luck in catching up to Mark Shelton and his 3 million miles. I know some of you are close. Some of you are nipping at his heels, but he told me today he's going to get to 5 million before he hangs it up. So you got your work cut out for you. And to all the drivers that we didn't speak directly to today, thank you for being the wheels on the ground in this company. Without you, it wouldn't be what it is. It wouldn't be anything without drivers, let's face it. So once again, salute to all of you drivers out there, whether you're rolling, whether you're on your break, whether you're trying to sleep and I won't shut up. Look, I get it. I appreciate you. Everybody at H&M appreciates you. We appreciate you listening to this podcast and taking part in it. And we hope that you have a stellar month of September, Driver Appreciation Month, as it's more well known. Don't forget to stop by Pilot and get your hands on some free stuff. And yeah, keep the shiny side up and stay fresh, cheese bags. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to the H&M Trucking Podcast. Please leave a review, subscribe, and connect with Marcus over at the H&M Trucking social media channels. And if you're considering a job at H&M, find us at hmtrucking.com. Until next time, stay safe and ahead of the curve drivers.